Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another Thyalwaysseek question and answer live stream. So, welcome to all you Aussies. It's Monday morning over here. Good evening to all of you guys over in the US. I know it's still Sunday afternoon over there for you guys. And hello and welcome to everybody over in the UK and over in Europe, because if you're watching, it's quite late at night. So welcome. And today we are going to be discussing the Ouroboros, or rather the symbol of the Ouroboros and what it relates to. Now, you'll see that I've actually put quite a few different artworks, symbolism, symbolic iconography on the loop today. They're not all going to be of the Ouroboros, but they're going to relate in some way to the symbol of the Ouroboros, because as we know, symbols are very layered and they tell a lot of different, they explain to us multiple facets of information, and it's quite layered, and this is what the Ouroboros does. So before we get into the Ouroboros though, we do want to just first do a few updates. Now, I just want to let everybody know that I've kind of worked out a bit of a time frame, because I've realized I've called this the question and answer live stream, and then I get to the end and I don't answer any questions and I don't even read back through the chat. And so let's remedy this situation. As I've said, this is still a learning curve for me. I am kind of getting the hang of things a little bit more. So what I thought we'll do is the first half an hour of the stream, we will go through the updates of the last week and all of the significant news events and situations, space, weather, earth changes that have happened. And then the last half an hour, we will go through and look at any questions. So if you do have any questions at all, how about leaving them to the last half an hour so that I don't have to scroll right back through all of the chat, and I can then see any questions that you guys have that we've discussed about. It doesn't have to be about what we've discussed. It can be, you know, something that you've just been thinking about, you've been studying something, or you've seen information that you don't quite understand. So any questions at all, please just put them in the chat in the last half an hour. And if it's possible for me to basically answer your questions or direct you to where you can find answers for your questions, then that is indeed what I'll do. All right, so let's get into it, shall we? So, starting with, of course, the East Palestine chemical disaster, because yes, that is still an ongoing disaster. That is not going to be solved anytime soon. And it's probably only going to turn into more of a shit show. So, I was doing a little bit of research into the chemical vinyl chloride, which was, we know, one of the chemicals that the carriages did contain, right? So those carriages contained lots of different chemicals. A lot of the chemicals, like, we don't even know what they were because they're not releasing this to the public. I mean, that in itself is a effing crime against humanity, to have these chemicals basically leach into the environment of the, you know, town in which these people are living in, and to then withhold the information about what exactly all these chemicals were, just shows you how evil they are. And really, I mean, this is where I say that when you're a neutral, when you're one of these people who believe that if you just follow the laws, you just do the right thing, you just stick to yourself, you just go to your 9-to-5 job, you don't actually, you know, ever err outside of the good behaviour that is expected of you as a citizen. You don't swear, you go to church every Sunday, you go and vote. You know, those people are probably some of the most evil people that we have in our society, because they are lukewarm. They are the neutrals. They are the ones that if you happen to be being attacked on the street, or your child happens to be, in a situation that's dangerous, they'll just walk on by, because it's not their problem. They're just minding their own business. And so that's why it really annoys me too when I see these guys. A lot of them are the MGTOW types, and they're like, well, you just don't know the rage of the man that just wanted to be kept to himself, and the quiet man that that didn't do anything, and you've just pushed him now, and you better watch out because he's going to be no, you're pathetic, okay? You're effing pathetic. If you're so weak and apathetic that you can just sit back, and as long as everything's good in your life, then you don't give a shit about anybody else, well, then you're just as evil as everybody that has control of our lives at the moment. All these people that are in charge and are basically, rolling out all of this very evil behavior on society and children. You are just complicit in that, and so you are no better than them. And that's why I always consider the neutrals to be just as evil as the evil in control of our world, because who said it, that all it takes for evil to succeed is good men to do nothing? Yeah, that's what we've got. We've got a whole situation here of a society of supposedly good men who just sit back and do nothing because, if it's not affecting their lives, then why should they? So anyway, this is what is going on now with the normies over here, the neutrals over here in East Palestine, because one of them was in a news article, and he was basically saying that the doctors say that he definitely has chemicals. I mean, these are his words. Doctors say, I definitely have the chemicals in me, but there's no one in town who can run the toxicological tests to find out which ones they are, says Wade Lovett, an auto detailer. And his voice has turned extremely high-pitched because he's got issues with his breathing. And so he talks like he's just had, helium air in his lungs, and he's got this really high-pitched voice, and he's basically, complaining that he can't access medical services to find out what's in his bloodstream and why he's so ill. These people, there's no help for them. There really isn't. They just, he's an auto detailer. He was just minding his own business, getting along with life, and look what happened to me. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you're ignorant to the evil in control of our lives right now. And if you want to be ignorant, if you want to try and ignore what's going on because you're too cowardly to actually address it and acknowledge it, then that's what's going to happen to you, and you've got no one to blame but yourself. And the other interesting thing that I thought I'd bring to your attention about this chemical disaster is that this shit show is just going to be spread around America as much as they can. Because now they're saying that officials in Texas and Michigan are complaining that they didn't receive any warning that contaminated water and soil from the train derailment in East Palestine would be shipped into their jurisdictions for disposal. So any of you guys that live in Michigan and Texas, well, guess what? Unbeknownst to you, they're shipping all of this toxic shit over into your states as well. So, this is the problem that we're going to have, that the evil isn't just directing itself into one area and staying in that area. They're going to make all of our lives a misery, and people need to prepare because they're definitely escalating their attacks against humanity. And so, and before, when I was telling you about the chemicals that they were carrying in the carriages, the vinyl chloride, well, as I said before, I was doing some research into it, and when you burn vinyl chloride, it turns into an even deadlier toxic chemical called dioxin. So these dioxins are now literally being spread all around the states, not only, not only were they spread around Ohio, but the neighbouring states. Anyone that was in the path of that plume, you have been basically covered in these dioxins, and they will just settle on leaves and vegetation and agriculture and in the ground and the groundwater and the streams. So look, this shit show is far from over. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Oh, finally, Biden orders door-to-door checks. So I'm just wondering how some government worker who's just going to knock on your door over in East Palestine and says, you know, oh, are you okay? Are you feeling all right? You know, how are they going to be able to diagnose that cancer metastasizing inside of your body? Because they're not. Okay, so this is all just appearances. Like, he's just wanting to appear. The government officials are just wanting to appear that they're doing something to help the people of East Palestine when they're not. Okay, they're just going to do the least amount they can for these people and get away with it. And, you know, quite actually, you know, they don't really care that, you know, that we know that they're evil. Okay, they just don't care. They literally have basically in a Alaskan government session, so the government were discussing matters over in Alaska, okay, and one of these politicians, Eastman, I didn't actually put his entire name down, but you can go and search out this article. He basically has been censured because he asked whether fatal child abuse, okay, let me just read this again. This is not an article from The Onion, guys, okay. This is literally reported on the BBC, okay, mainstream news. This did actually happen. You can go and look this up. This politician basically asked whether fatal child abuse could actually benefit society because you didn't have to actually then pay any money to support that child any longer. I'm literally not lying to you guys. This is actually what happened. This politician said, in case where child abuse is fatal, obviously it's not good for the child, but it's actually a benefit to society because there aren't needs for government services and whatnot over the whole course of the child's life. He added that some have made the argument the abuse could amount to a cost savings measure because the child would no longer need to rely on state government support. This is the evil that we're dealing with. And they attack the most purest and closest to God the Creator, the children, because they are the purest souls amongst mankind and they are the closest to God the Creator. And so that's why they're attacking the children. And they're literally telling us now how evil they really are, that they see that fatal child abuse, so a child who has been tortured and killed while being abused by an adult, is actually a benefit to the government. This is what this politician was literally publicly stating to not only the Alaskan government but to the world, because I mean this is public to everybody. So they're letting us know how evil they are. And he was censured, okay? And so if you want to know what censured is literally just a formal statement of disapproval. So, we formally disapprove that you just said that killing a child through abuse is a benefit to society because it's very cost effective. So we're just going to slap you on the wrist and tell you that that's not a very nice thing to say. And that's pretty much all we're going to do. We're not going to expel you. We're not going to basically strip you of your political status. No, we're just going to slap you on the wrist. So this is what's happening, guys. This is, you know, literally them showing us how evil they are. Guys, is anybody in the chat? Because I can't see anybody. Oh, hang on. Did I have the wrong? Oh, okay. I didn't have the right. Hello, everybody. I was wondering, am I muted again? Because, you know, I did that a few weeks ago where I actually was talking for 7 minutes until somebody said, we can't hear you, and realized that I had not unmuted my microphone. So, hello, Anna. How are you? Good to see you. And I am trying to... Right, I've added you as a moderator, Anna. Hello, Chris. Hello, Saturnian Sun. Nice to have you with us again. Sorry about that previous miscommunication. And this is why we have actually got moderators now, because sometimes I just look over and I see a couple of comments and I can actually... I do go on the defense, guys. Look, after 10 years, well, actually I say 10 years, you know, I've been doing this 12 years, guys. And after 12 years of putting this information out and constantly being attacked, I mean, literally, guys, I have been attacked. I have had people make videos about me. I have had people pretend to be my friend. And then when I have trusted them and invited them into my inner circle, they have turned on me. I mean, if you guys actually understood what I have gone through over the last 12 years with people who have been so deceitful and, you know, really dishonorable towards me, then you may understand why I do get so defensive. So I am sorry if people get, you know, my hair trigger, you know, takes out people accidentally. And if I do see that I've made that mistake, I will remedy it and apologize. So this is why you know, we've now got moderators so that I don't have to worry about what's being said in chat. It's going to be moderated by other students of the teachings. The moderators are students of the teachings, okay? They have been basically studying this knowledge for pretty much as long as I have. And so sometimes if there are questions that I do miss, they may be able to help you as well or direct you to information or knowledge. Anyway, so let's continue on with some earth changes. So let's start with some space weather, because the sun has been quite active. We're getting lots of end flares and a lot of ionization of our upper atmosphere. Now remember, guys, when we're having extreme ionization in, you know, the upper levels of our atmosphere, this is translating to it being highly energized, okay? And then because we know that everything is connected, principle of correspondence, that is going to play out in heightened and escalating tectonic activity and also volcanic activity. And we have actually had quite an elevated, you know, we've had elevated activity tectonically. We've had over 5, 6+ magnitude earthquakes in the last week. We had 2 yesterday, 1 in Papua New Guinea and 1 in Japan. And also an update. Remember how the last stream I was talking about the X-flare that we had, and they were predicting, okay, in one of our biggest channels on space weather, was predicting that it was going to be a huge geomagnetic storm, or quite a strong geomagnetic storm. Well, that actually never eventuated. We never really got a strong geomagnetic storm at all. Interestingly, NASA came out and said that the storm was going to be a direct hit, but then NOAA came out and said it would just be a glancing blow. So can you see what they're doing here? So 2 agencies funded by the same government, right, are saying 2 completely different things. One agency is saying that the CME is going to hit us directly and we're going to have a very strong geomagnetic storm. And then the other agency is saying, no, it's not going to hit us directly. It's just going to be a glancing blow, or maybe not even hit us at all. So, of course, they're never wrong, are they? When they have 2 completely different, you know, predictions, then they're never going to get it wrong. So this is what, you know, basically encourages the masses, and especially the ones who think they're smart, because they go and look at the space weather and they understand the space weather, so they're so intelligent. But you can see how they get fooled into believing that these agencies actually know what that frick they're talking about when they don't, because they have so often got these predictions wrong in the last couple of years. Well, especially the last, year and a half, because we're just, starting into solar maximum. So we're really starting to see an escalation of space weather activity because of the solar activity. But yeah, this is how they corner all their bases. And so they're never wrong then, are they? So now we're actually having a geomagnetic storm. I did check the space weather this morning, and we are having an elevated geomagnetic storm, and this is from the CME that was ejected from the sun, I think, a day and a half ago. And so it literally is what it says, a coronal mass ejection. So a piece of the sun, a plasma of the sun, has lifted off the sun and has basically been expelled towards our planet, and this is now what we're feeling. And interestingly, when that event happened, we had a proton event immediately affect and ionize our at the top of our atmosphere and into the poles as well, and it was quite extreme. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some more tectonic activity, a couple of more quakes, big ones, maybe 6+ magnitude, and even start seeing some more volcanic activity. Now, the volcanic activity normally takes about a week or so after we have these events. I've noticed it's not as connected immediately as the earthquakes. The earthquakes tend to play out within 24 to 48 hours if we're going to see something from a flare or some geomagnetic storming. But the volcanic activity normally takes a little bit longer. All right, well, I know I'm only 22 minutes into the stream, but I'm pretty much I think I've pretty much covered all of the updates. I mean, there is lots of shit going on, guys. I could go through Google News and, basically address all of the crap that we're, having to put up with, but a lot of it's just distraction. So really, you need to understand that they do things just to distract us, and it's not sometimes to distract us from something else that they're doing. I know a lot of people think that, if they're doing something to distract us, then what are they distracting us from? Well, it's not always that. It's just because they've got to bide their time. Remember how I said they're on a time scale, they're on a timeline. And so the planet is becoming more and more unstable due to the Earth changes. And so they need to time the cards that they're going to play out on humanity. So they've got a script that they want to play out because they want to pretend that they're our gods and that they have this design for us, because, everything that's happening is, part of God's plan. Even, yes, the evil, okay? But the thing is that what we've got to understand is that we made the choice to take this evil path. So there are many paths before us. The esoteric knowledge tells us that at any one point in time, we have 64 paths before us that we can choose. Sometimes the paths, sometimes we're meant to take them and it's destined, fated that we take that path. And we don't really have much of a choice because we made a decision back, further back, that brought us to where we are in that kind of, in the path that we're on. So there's a limited choice, but generally that's what esoteric knowledge shows us, is that we have 64 paths before us, or many paths before us, and we can choose these paths. So mankind has chosen the evil path, and so we've done this to ourselves. And so they now believe they're writing the script because they're choosing the path that they want to take. And we are now in the process of them playing out their final cards on humanity. And so literally until they can play out their main so I see it as a script. Sometimes say playing out their cards, but really it's probably better to see it as a script that they've written, and that they've got these subplots and they've got these major subplots that they have to play out because they're trying to emulate the divine design in their own way, in their own evil way. They're mirroring it in their own evil way. And so there are main parts of the script that they're going to play out. They're going to bring down the financial system completely. That's a big subplot. They're going to basically have us all dependent on them for food, housing and shelter, literally communism, okay? That's another subplot. They are also going to give us the mark. And now people think that the mark is, they're going to put a barcode on us, they're going to chip us. They don't even have to do that, okay? They will probably chip people if they want it. If they want to be chipped, I can actually see that could eventuate, but mainly it's going to be about our devices. And so we've already got our devices as part of our lives, and literally we do our banking on it, we communicate with people, we access social media on there, we access news and information on there. So we literally all live with our phones now anyway. So what's going to happen is that these devices are going to be our mark. And somebody said to me in another stream, and it was only later when I went back and read the comments, what happens if you don't want a device, if you don't want a phone? Well, you're going to literally have to have one to survive, because without your phone, you will not be able to buy and access food. You will not be able to access medication or medical help. You will not be able to access schooling if you want to attend their educational institutes, or as I call them, brainwashing institutes. You will not be able to access transport. You will not be able to access shelter. So you will literally be living outside of the system. And if you can see how the meth heads are living on the streets of LA and in other towns around, San Francisco and other towns around America, that's literally what you will become. And I'm pretty sure, in fact, I'm positive that they'll actually have a camp. They'll actually have, it will be a place where they can house and shelter the people that don't fit into the system anymore, because some people just can't mentally exist within the system as we have it now. This is why we see such a problem with homelessness, and a lot of the homeless people are literally mentally ill. Okay, they just cannot exist within the system. They can't hold down a job. They can't pay rent. They can't pay their bills. They're not able to do this. They're mentally not capable in doing this. And to numb their pain of having to exist in such misery, living in a tent, basically being the victim of, heinous acts, I can only imagine, they numb themselves with drugs, and fentanyl has been literally made available to them for nothing. Okay, remember back in the day with heroin and coke, you used to have to go and sell yourself or engage in criminal activity to buy the drugs, because it was so expensive. Well, you don't even have to do that now. They literally just give it away, because this is a design to destroy us as a society. It's no coincidence that we're seeing these massive increases in people using fentanyl and these types of drugs. It's literally being put before them. These people that are already experiencing a lot of hardships in their life, who are, very easy prey for drug dealers, because, when you are experiencing something that's, emotionally crippling, you want to medicate yourself. And this is what they do. They do this with alcohol. They do this with fentanyl, heroin, meth, whatever they can get their hands on. So, You know, I actually do think that the people who the system fails, or who fail to be able to align themselves in the system and work within the system that the antichrists have entrapped us in, because it's not the reality that we live today, is not, it's artificial. These are the people who probably are the most sensitive among us. So they are the ones who cannot cope mentally and emotionally in this artificial system. And so these children as well, these young teens, and it's even happening to children now, you know, of 11 and 12 years old, who are suiciding, are very, very sensitive teenagers, and, you know, young people who cannot cope with this artificial system. And social media has just made it worse. You know, they can't escape it. Before, if you didn't really fit into school and you were a little bit different, you could at least, you know, go home and, you know, read books or involve yourself in whatever hobby it was that made you, you know, feel more enriched. Now these kids just don't even have anything, you know, they can't escape at all. It's just there 24/7, social media. They live on social media. I mean, they literally take their phones to school, which shocks me, because I remember, and I was a teenager in the 80s, and I remember when those Nintendo games came out, and I'm trying to think what they were called, but Donkey Kong was one of them. There was another one where a chef was like flipping things in the air, and you used to have to run around with a pan and catch these things that he was flipping in the air. That was my favorite. But if you took them to school, they would actually confiscate them from you. But now, I mean, these kids are literally bringing their phones into their classrooms. You know, I mean, we didn't even take our games into the classroom. I mean, we used to just put them, you know, in our locker, whatever, and just use them at lunchtime. But they're now allowed to bring their phones into the classroom. So that just goes to show you that there is a concerted effort to have us attached to our devices, have our children attached to their devices 24/7, because they're brainwashing devices. Anyway, okay, so that's pretty much the first half an hour of the updates and me just giving my personal opinion on society in general and what they've done to us. But as I said, guys, it's all part of the plan. They're destroying us. They're literally giving us the tools to destroy ourselves. And it's because they know that we live in a cycle. That's the key. And that's what they've basically taken away from us. The knowledge that they have taken away of us existing in a cycle is key to waking up. If you don't realize that we live in a cycle, if you don't realize that your soul is continuously reincarnated throughout that cycle into a physical body, into a biological container, then you are at the mercy of the clergy and politicians who literally brainwash you into believing the material world is all there is. Or if you're a modern Christian, that when you die, you either go to hell for eternity or to heaven for eternity. And that's literally not the case, because there is an ethereal plane, and we visit that ethereal plane as souls, because that is what we were created as first and foremost. We literally were created as souls. This is our true form, is a soul. And then we were basically birthed into our physical container. Now people say, but the Bible says that it's the physical, the material was there before the spiritual. Yes, in the creation of the divine man and earth, God's kingdom, the very first creation, God created the world and the divine man before the spirit entered into the material. In that case, yes. But the spirit was before the physical. When we are created as a being, as a human, we are souls first before the physical. But when the world was created, well, God had to have something created before he could, you know, put the spirit into the matter. So this is why it's important. You need to understand all of the esoteric knowledge to understand the scriptures. See how easy it is to be blindsided with the incorrect interpretation of the text. And, basically, as I've been telling these modern Christians who debate with me all the time, they've literally handed their minds and souls over to their clergy. They've literally put their salvation into the hands of the clergy. They don't have any independent thoughts of their own. They only parrot and repeat whatever their clergy tell them. And so if they don't understand that we exist in a cycle, if they don't understand the cycle of their soul, then they are just fodder for the antichrists and are literally just taking the wide path to destruction. But do you think that you can tell these people? No, you can't. And it's going to be interesting when I read out some of the Hindu mythology about Kalki and what happens at the end of the great year, that you will probably understand a little bit more of why we can't get through to these Christians. And for the most part, they are just really victims of the antichrists that will and do not have the ability to turn back and find the proper path. And so don't lose heart when you try and help Christian people, modern Christians, and you just can't get anywhere with them because they literally are so brainwashed. They do not have the ability to understand, what you're saying to them. They just cannot process it at all. So the symbol of the Ouroboros literally relates to the cycle of the great year, which we go from the golden age to the silver age to the bronze age to the iron age. There are 4 main ages within the great year, but then that's also divided into 12 smaller ages as well. And so each of the 4 ages, it probably doesn't really work in complete because they're not divided equally. So if you understand the golden mean ratio and you look at the golden mean, when you look at it as it's applied in nature, you can see that it starts larger, or it starts smaller, and then it doubles and doubles and doubles. That's how creation basically is applied to the physical and material world. So the golden age is actually half of the cycle, and then you've got the silver age, which is the second half of the cycle, is half of that cycle, and then you've got the bronze age, which is half again. And now I do have a diagram which explains it a little bit better than what I'm trying to do and explain it to you in words. So the iron age that we're in now, okay, it's really not a huge part of the great year. And can you imagine if it was? Can you imagine if we were in the Iron Age a lot longer than we are? I mean, we literally would actually destroy creation, because look at where we are now. We're actually expanding consciously, and this is why you can actually see how much we've expanded even in the last 50 years. Now, if you look at where we were 100 years ago, 150 years ago, I mean, we were still driving around in horses and carriages, and, we were still very much, we were not as if you look at where we are now to where we were 150 years ago, it just is mind-blowing to how fast we have expanded intellectually, consciously, and how that has manifested itself materially because we have chosen this path. Remember how I said we chose the path of evil? It's just like with the internet. When the internet first came out and it was very innocent, it was literally like the best thing ever. Anyone who was using the internet when it first came out, I mean, it was just awesome, okay, because it hadn't been corrupted yet. They still didn't really know how to get a handle on it and how to control it completely. So it was still pretty much the Wild West out there, and it wasn't a bad place. We were literally self-correcting. We were using it for good. I mean, I'm not saying that everything was good on it, but it wasn't, used as a weapon against us. Now it's been completely controlled. Our voices are being controlled. We're being censored. We're being corralled into certain social media platforms, whereas before it was all about forums and all about chat rooms, and you could literally go and find a forum that you were interested in, you know, a subject matter, and it was pretty much, you know, a very unregulated place. And so, but unfortunately, instead of going, you know, and using technology to benefit us, we didn't. We went down the wrong path. So this is what we've done. We've expanded consciously, we've expanded intellectually, and even spiritually, because I do believe there has been a couple of awakenings already. I first awakened back in 1999, and I think that they already knew that there was going to be a bit of an awakening back in 1999. There must be some way that they can measure maybe some energetic particles, or some way, whether they've got, you know, possession of knowledge, which we know they have. I mean, we absolutely know that they have all the knowledge locked away underneath the Vatican, and they know everything, you know, that has been stolen from us. I mean, we've just got the fragments left over that they didn't destroy and steal that we have to put back together. But back in 1999, then they, remember the whole millennial bug that was going to take down all of the computers. And so, like, I was literally a victim of that psyop, because I was going around telling my friends and family about it and telling them to go and stock up on food, and maybe this could really happen. And I kind of did have an awakening back then. I started getting interested in spirituality. I did actually go down the path of Wicca and all of that, because I detested religion. I really hated religion. The experiences, the limited experiences I had with the religious organization, which was unfortunately the Catholic Church, were very, very negative. And so I just despised anything religious. So I totally was looking for spirituality in all of the New Age kind of field of things. And yeah, there was a little bit of an awakening back there. And then I basically went back to sleep again for a while. And then I had another awakening around 2004. That was just a small one. And I kind of got interested in the starseed information. And then it was all about the starseed stuff. Again, quite new agey. And then the big one was 2011. And that was a big one, and that was when I started my YouTube channel, because I started seeking out answers, and that's what I wanted to understand. You know, what the hell, what's going on? I need answers. You know, just things aren't adding up anymore, and I just can't keep going back to sleep and ignoring them, because they just keep, you know, basically coming back up in my life, and I can't ignore them. And so I think that that's pretty much what they have known, and this is why the whole 2012 thing was created by them. They used the Maya to basically put forth this psyop about 2012 being the end of the world and the whole thing, and we all, because we were feeling something definitely spiritually was going on. I mean, a lot of us had literal experiences. I myself had them. I know others that literally had tangible experiences that can't be explained. And I think that, again, they realized that something was happening, and so they made sure to put this false path down there. And so a lot of people who woke up back then and started, you know, and awakened back then, literally were very disappointed when 2012 didn't, you know, eventuate how we imagined it would, and they basically got sucked back into the matrix. So this is what they do. And, you know, and I've got a video about this too. The Maya actually said 2011, because there is a documentary that was put out in the 1970s that they did on the Mayan culture. And that makes me think that they are measuring something up in the, you know, upper atmosphere. They've got, because they didn't obviously know it back in the 1970s, and they allowed that information to come out, and they literally said that it was going to be 2011, and they didn't say it was going to be immediate. They said it was the start of the change between ages. So well, they were right. We have to, we have to give them that. They are on point. 2011, and a lot of us that was, and I know that there's many of you that watch and listen to these streams that were awake back then and awakened back then. Something happened, and we know it. And I think we took it for granted back then. I don't think we actually identified how important it was, what was happening to us back then. And it's only now that we can look back and probably start to realize that it was a pretty significant, event that happened to us. Anyway, I am tangenting off again. So we're in a cycle, and part of that cycle is all dependent upon, the cycle is dependent upon our access to the Christ light, to God's consciousness. Christ consciousness is what I like to see it as. And it's the Holy Spirit, it's manna, it's, there's many different words to explain what this is. And we have access to this in different degrees throughout the cycle. And so in the golden age, we have lots of access. We have, basically, we are very close to this Holy Spirit, Christ consciousness, the manna, the Akashic records. There's so many different ways that it can be explained, but it's literally the ethereal plane and the ether are very present in the golden age of our cycle, and so we are more ethereal. We know that God is real, the creator exists, because we can literally experience the presence of the divine on the material plane, because the ether is so present. And it's just like the tide, it goes in and out, and this is the principle of rhythm in Hermetic science. So this is what the Ouroboros basically relates to when you look at it in the way of connecting it to the great year. And so there are a few different different verses that we can look at. One is from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and it says, "The Saviour said, all nature, all formations, all creatures exist in and with one another, and they will be resolved again into their own roots." And so if you can see how the Ouroboros is eating its tail, this is basically explaining that we are resolved again into our own material creation to be rebirthed again. So think of the cycle, of a seed, that falls from a sunflower into the ground to be rebirthed again, and that cycle continues on. And remember, the universe is fractal, so we can literally work out the laws of creation by looking at how they work, the workings of, creation around us in nature, because it is fractal. I mean, it's not that we can apply our life cycle to a fish or to a frog or to a certain animal, but in general, we can see that aspects of creation can be applied to the human existence as well, and the human cycle as well. Voltaire says, "It's not more surprising to be born twice than once. Everything in nature is resurrection." That's when it's actually equating to the soul, because the Ouroboros also equates to the cycle of our soul, continuously being reincarnated into the material world throughout our 26,000 year cycle. Now, not all of us have been here as souls for 26,000 years, because that's how long our cycle is of the great year. Some are newer souls, some have been here a lot longer. And so that's basically how we exist in this experience of the, of creation. We are literally, souls that continue on. And now at the end of this cycle. So if you can think of the solar year, and solar, the sun is connected to matter. The symbol of the sun is connected to matter, and this is why you'll actually see it connected to the male in a lot of the alchemical drawings and artworks and symbols. The male is the sun and the female is the moon, and that is because the female is also more connected to the cycles of the moon. You can see with the female menstruation cycle. You can see with the female being the one that brings forth the creation through birthing humans onto the physical plane. Well, the moon is very connected to the creation of the soul. I don't know the details of that, but just looking at the knowledge, in the esoteric knowledge, this is what it explains to us, is that the moon has a role. So obviously the gravitational forces of the moon, the way that the moon reacts to our on the ethereal plane, to the physical planet as well, has a connection to the birthing cycle of souls onto the material plane. And so this is why you'll see that the sun is connected to the male and matter. And so this brings me back to why I was telling you this. So if you look at the solar return, the year, right, that we have every year, we have 12 months and it's every year, and used to be 10 months. It doesn't really matter, but yearly we know that the sun cycles through, and it's a yearly event. Well, if you can see that on a larger scale, the great year is the year of the soul. That's the way that I can put it. So if the soul, if the year that we experience, as humans on the material plane, and we make a big deal about it, and at the end of every year we have Christmas and we have New Year's Eve, and those events to mark the end of our year. Well, think of the great year as being attached, connected to your soul. And this is actually the symbolism of Christmas, what it relates to. It relates to the cycle of the soul. And that's why Santa brings the naughty children coal, because coal is matter without spirit. And back in the day when we didn't mollycoddle our children and wrap them in cotton wool, we told them the truth. And that if you are not a good soul, you will not pass judgment, and you will basically be like that piece of coal there, just matter without any spirit, because your soul will cease to exist. And so Santa is basically symbolizing God the Father. It's been completely corrupted now, and of course turned into a materialistic event. Well, surprise, surprise, we've got the Antichrists in control of everything. Of course they were going to do that. And there's a lot of different symbolism in Christmas that shows that it is all connected to the cycle of the soul in the great year. And I do actually have a video, if you want to check that out. It's called The Massing of the Christed. And that shows you how all of the different symbolism of Christmas relates to the great year and the cycle of our souls. All right, so then it's got, men do not know how the souls revolve like a stone which is thrown from a sling. That's from the Zohar. Another one from the Zohar is, the souls must re-enter the absolute substance whence they have emerged. But to accomplish this, they must develop all the perfections, the germ of which is planted in them. And if they have not fulfilled this condition during one life, they must commence another, a third, and so forth, until they have acquired the condition which fits them for reunion with God. And so that's the Zohar as well. At the end of the great year, the souls that pass judgment are reunited with Source, with the Creator, before being rebirthed onto the physical plane once again to start a new great year, a new cycle of 26,000 years. And that will be not only the divine souls, which are 288, and that never changes, but also the 144,000 mortal souls that pass judgment, that have lived a life in alignment with divine law and have passed judgment. And remember, that doesn't just mean this life, that means all of your lives that you have lived for the last, however long. It could be 26,000 years, could be 10,000 years. Maybe you're a new soul. Maybe it's 5,000 years. Maybe you're divine. Who knows? Nobody knows yet. It's all unknown until the light returns. But this is basically the workings of creation. And it's all adjudicated, which is why Thoth, the scribe, is basically present at the weighing of the heart, because it's showing how everything is weighed and measured. It's organic. It's not God in the clouds. It's not a man with a book going, right, yep, well, you did this, you did that. It's just the universe has a way of organically weighing all of your actions over your lifetimes, with how long a soul has been incarnate and created. So of course, souls that have been around for 10,000, 15,000 years, it's a different weighing and measuring to a soul that's only been here for 2,000 years or 1,000 years or 50 years, whatever it is. So it's all weighed and measured and adjudicated at the time of the weighing of the heart, and that's an organic and that this is something that is organic, and it's not, a conscious thing that someone's sitting there that doesn't like something you did, or, oh, you said you believed in Jesus. Oh, well, you're a good soul, aren't you? Yes, well, you're going through. Oh, you said Jesus is the way to God. Jesus is the one true Savior. I mean, this is just ridiculous that these Christians believe this, okay? That they have to basically verbally say that they believe in Jesus, and that's all it takes. And somebody who doesn't even know Jesus exists, who lived a completely virtuous life in service to humanity and, stayed aligned to all of the divine laws, and just because they don't believe in Jesus, or they don't basically, verbally say that Jesus is the one true way to God, as the Savior and blah, 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 is not going to pass judgment. That is just crap. And this is the regurgitation of, antichrists who have taken control of the minds of these Christians, which they were warned about. So don't feel sorry for them, because, they were warned about this. Feel sorry for their children that they've brought into this brainwashing. But, as for them, no, you don't have to feel sorry for them, because they had the opportunity to find the truth. If I could find it, if I could go and do the work and go and find all the different fragments that hadn't been destroyed and put them back together, yes, it took a hell of a lot of work, but what's your soul worth? Somebody said to me, oh, you're very passionate about this. What's your soul worth? If you're not as passionate about this knowledge as, I am, then pretty much don't know, it's really just a reflection on what you think your soul is worth. Because if it's just a novelty to you, if it's just interesting, then really that's pretty much the, value that you've put on your soul. Because it's about finding the truth and wanting to know the truth above all, just for the, intentions of knowing that. Not about being popular, not about making money, not about, being smarter than others. And I know a lot of people think I'm in my ego, and they think that, I think I'm full of, I'm vain and I'm full of ego and that, because I speak the way I do with such, assurance. But it's because I know I can speak that way. I've done the research, and I am going to speak that way. And, that's why I've started swearing again. When you go to me, where you'll see that, yes, I even use the C word when I talk about the Antichrists. And I'm going to, because really, if my swearing offends you, then you're so close-minded, you're never going to understand this, knowledge. And, there was a while there that I thought, well, I better not swear, because I don't want to deter people that are looking for the knowledge, and then they might get offended, and, they won't want to look at the knowledge. And then I've deterred them from their path. That's not my responsibility. You know, your emotional reaction to my swearing is not my problem. It's your problem. So if anyone has a problem with me, and I won't swear on YouTube because I'll pretty much get, you know, banned and my channel will be taken down. But I can still swear on MeWe. They don't care. You're still allowed to basically have freedom of speech over there. And so I've been swearing again. Yes, I have. Because sometimes that's the only way I can emotionally express myself, because I get so angry at the Antichrist and what they're doing to us, and especially the children, that I just need to vent that feeling and express it, and that's the way I will. So I don't care if it seems unchristian that I'm swearing or unspiritual, because you know what, spirituality isn't something that is just a shallow appearance. You know, I don't know if people know, but I think Plato, or was it Socrates, but he was a bit of a swearer. It is well known that he was a swearer. And so when I read that a philosopher, an ancient philosopher, as intelligent as Plato, was a swearer, I was like, well, that just confirms it for me. That really doesn't equate to being spiritual. Okay, as long as you're not engaging in evil behavior and you're not being an asshole to people, like actively an asshole, then yeah, it doesn't matter if you swear. If you want to express yourself in that way, I mean, I don't go swearing like this in, you know, my environment around, you know, where I live, unless it's with certain people that I know I can have a bit of a swear with, but I don't swear in front of children. I, you know, don't swear in front of old ladies. You know, I make sure that I acknowledge the environment that I'm in, but it certainly isn't conducive to whether you're more spiritual because you walk around saying namaste and God bless you. You know, that doesn't make you spiritual. Okay, you can repeat those words as much as you want, but if you're not actually applying this knowledge to your life and living this knowledge, then no, you're not a spiritual person. All right, I just had to get that out there because I was thinking about it today when I was using the C word, and I was like, I'm going to actually make a mention of that. All right, the soul has neither beginning nor end. They come into this world strengthened by the victories or weakened by the defeats of their previous lives, and that's origin. So again, yes, our previous incarnations will determine our future incarnations, because it's all about the paths we take. Now, I just want to go back because I did start and I confused myself. I started out wanting to connect the Ouroboros with some verses in relation to the cycle of the great year, and then I went over and started talking about it in relation to the cycle of the soul. But I'll just go back to a couple of verses about it in relation to the great year. Now, there's not a lot. If you want to go and look through the Colburn Bible, there's also many Greek texts, many Hindu texts, which, you know, speak of the great year. As I said, that I do have a playlist in regards to the great year, and it shows you all the different cultures and their mythologies in regards to the great year cycle. But I just did want to basically bring you a couple of different mythologies. One's from Virgil, who was an ancient Greek philosopher, and the other is about the Hindu mythology of Kalki, and that's the one I really did want to go into detail with you guys. And this is why you'll see in the images that you're watching that I have Kalki actually showing in these images as well. So let's just read from Virgil first. So now the last age by Kume's Sibyl sung. Probably mispronounced that. I will put all of this in the video underneath, in the comments underneath the video. Now the last age of Kume's Sibyl sung has come and gone, and the majestic roll of circling centuries begins anew. Justice returns, returns old Saturn's reign with a new breed of men sent down from heaven. Only do thou at the boy's birth in whom the iron age shall cease and the golden race arise. Befriend him, chaste Lucina, 'tis thine own Apollo reigns, and in thy consulate this glorious age, O Pollio, shall begin, and the months enter on their mighty march. So it's basically telling us about the end of the great year. It mentions the iron, so the age of the iron shall cease to exist, because in the Iron Age, well, guess what? Mortal man is Iron Man, and mortal man is in charge right now, in control of our world. We are in the Iron Age, and we are basically at the mercy of the Iron Man, who is the most material of all humans and the least divine, because, well, look at who we have in control of our world right now. These people are literal antichrists. And when I say antichrist, I'm not talking about, you know, the devil and horns. And by the way, the Bible talks of antichrists, plural. People often say when the antichrist comes, and like they're waiting for this, you know, deity to come down from the heavens or come up from hell, and he's got a pitchfork and horns, and that's what they're looking for. Or they're looking for some type of evil, you know, personified in one man or one deity, one being, you know, and that's not true. That's not how it's going to happen. The Antichrist is plural, and it's a collection of men who have sought to control humanity through nefarious means and deceit. They've basically stolen all of our knowledge about 600 years ago when they enacted the Spanish Crusades, and they literally went around the world raiding and pillaging all of the ancient cultures and stealing their knowledge. What they didn't steal, they burned. Whoever wouldn't basically convert to their beliefs, their doctrine, they burned at the stake or hacked to pieces. This is the lovely Catholic Church that are still in power. This is the lovely Jesuit Pope presiding over this organisation who enacted this on these peoples, who every world leader goes and kisses his ring, literally and figuratively. They are still in power. They have been in power for at least 800 years to 1,000 years. They've had continuous power for all that time. They literally just went behind the curtain. After they were out rampaging around the world, enacting their evil and violence on everybody, they just suddenly went godly, apparently. But no, all they did was went behind the scenes, and now they're the hidden hand. And remember how I said they emulate God, and God is the hidden hand behind all of our lives? Well, that's what they play. They play our gods by being the hidden hand. And this is why I said before, a lot of the distractions is just them biding their time until they can play out their final script. But they are literally our gods now, and they are antichrists because they are against the Christ within you. And the scriptures literally tell us that the Christ is within us all. The modern Christians do not like to read that because they think it's blasphemous to, you know, believe that they have Christ within them, because, you know, they believe Jesus is God the Father. They literally believe the Son is the Father. You cannot sway them from this belief. I only hope that sometimes when I am debating with these Christians, that there are some of these modern Christians who are starting to doubt what their clergy are telling them, because it just doesn't make sense. And they start to look at what I'm saying and look into it further. But I'd say they are very, very much in the few. Anyway, let's go back to Virgil. And then he said, only do thou at the boy's birth in whom the iron shall cease and the golden race shall arise. Well, the boy's birth means the birth of the Christ. The Christ is already among us. That's symbolized by Jesus and Apollo and Thor. There's many different names that we give the firstborn divine man, because he holds the Christ within him to the highest degree. So we all carry the Christ within us to different degrees, depending on our order of creation from God the Father. And so those created closest to God the Father are the divine, and there is 288 souls within humanity that are divine because they are created. They are a direct extension from God the Father, from the divine mind of God. I have described the different levels within the divine race because there is even different degrees of divinity within the divine race, but they all hold the divine portion, the Christ within them, to different degrees. And the firstborn, i.e. Jesus, Adam, Saint John, it is also symbolized by the eagle, the tribe of the north, the tribe of Dan, what else? Apollo, Thor, Kalki, Shiva. I mean, I'm just trying off the top of my head, but I have made a list on previous videos about all the different symbols that relate to the man that was born closest to God the Creator and holds the divinity within him, the divine portion within him, to the highest degree. And so that's what this is talking of. Only do thou at that boy's birth in whom the iron shall cease and the golden race arise. Because once he illuminates, and he will illuminate first because he is closest to the divine mind, and he holds the Christ within him to the highest degree, so he will illuminate first, and then it'll be like a chain reaction, and then the female born with the highest degree of divinity will basically illuminate second, and then it'll just go down like a chain reaction through the whole 288 within the divine race. But then there will also be mortals who have aligned themselves with the divine laws and who have lived virtuous incarnations, who will also show some sign of holding the divinity within them. The divine portion within them will also illuminate to a degree. Now, I don't think it will be to the degree of the gods. We will know who the gods are. And so I'm talking about gods with a little g, not with a big G. There's God, the Father, and then there's gods with a little g, or the divine race. We will absolutely know who the gods are amongst humanity. We will not have to guess, oh, that's a god over there. You will know. And you will know who the firstborn is. You will absolutely not have to wonder about that at all. But there will be a way that the mortal humans who have lived virtuous and good lives, and either we do that in two ways. We do that through virtuous behavior and kindness and in service to humanity, or we do that through the seeking of knowledge. So personally in these times, I would find that the seeking of knowledge is probably a somewhat less arduous path to your divine nature than being kind and virtuous, because we live in a time where being kind and being virtuous is basically shunned, and you are looked at as a hater and a bigot and everything else that goes with it. So it's probably different in different ages. So in ages where we don't have access to the knowledge, and there was a time when the Catholic Church literally were burning people at the stake because they were reading the Bible in English, it may not have been as easy to find the path back to your divine nature through knowledge. It may have been easier just to be in service to humanity, to find that path. But anyway, and so it does actually speak of Apollo in relation to the firstborn divine man in this verse from Virgil as well. And I would actually recommend a channel called, I always forget his name. Oh. I'll put his channel down underneath. He basically goes into all of the mythology and explains it all, and then he goes across culture as well and shows difference. You know, he puts together the pieces like what I've done. Unfortunately, he hasn't really embraced the spiritual side of the mythology that he's explaining, and so he does miss a lot of what the symbolism means. because he's kind of reaching and he's just trying to interpret the words instead of actually going and studying symbolism and studying the scriptures. You know, he never actually really looks at too much of the theology, mainly just the mythology. But it's very helpful if you want to actually have someone discussing the different mythologies without actually having to go and read the text. Though I do advise you go and read the text. There's nothing that's going to, you know, give you a shortcut. It's better to read the text. But if you just want an overview before you read the text, or you want to read the text and then you want an overview, this dude's great. So I will actually put down his channel, or actually I'll put down the video that I was watching. I listened to it as I'm doing my craft, and he was going into the mythology of Apollo and Artemis, and it's literally the story of the twin souls, the firstborn male and female twin souls who hold the divine portion within them in the highest degree. And yeah, literally talking about them and the cycle that we exist in. So it's a very, very helpful video that confirms everything else that we've been studying. So anyway, that's pretty much that explained. And then this one is from W.L. Wilmshurst, who is a Freemason, and he wrote The Meaning of Masonry, and I've just actually started reading his book. Now, we know that the Freemasons aren't evil, don't we? Everyone that's listening in at the moment, we know that, don't we? We're not going to be sucked into the psyops that say that Freemasons are all evil. Yes, Freemasonry has been infiltrated and co-opted. Okay, of course they would be, just like every other brotherhood has, you know, just like all the religions have, because they possess knowledge. So of course the antichrists want to pervert that and turn it into something evil and use it as a weapon, and of course they want to put fear into people about the Freemasons, and so they never go and look at anything that the Freemasons have because, well, they're evil, but they're not evil. Manly P. Hall, you literally need to go and read his student notes. That is the most important teachings that I have ever found of Manly P. Hall can be found within his student notes. I'm not saying don't go and look at all of his other books and his other publications, but I am saying if you want to literally look at knowledge in a way that he imparted to people that he felt were his students, because when he wrote his publications, he was just writing it for the normie. Okay, and this is what this W.L. Wilmshurst basically says in the beginning, and I've just started reading his book, The Meaning of Masonry, is literally they will not divulge the truths to people that aren't worthy of them. And so that they'll just literally have a, you know, this very shallow understanding, like this explanation of symbols and everything for the normie Freemasons, and then for the ones who show themselves to be worthy and keep questioning, they will divulge more knowledge. And this is what Manly P. Hall did. He wrote publications just for normies, and then he actually he released these monthly letters to his students, and he goes into the explanation of the symbolism and the esoteric knowledge, and, you know, the knowledge that the Freemasons knew a lot deeper. So that's what you want to do. You can find a link to the website that has all of these student notes in our MeWe group. The first post that you will see in our MeWe group is the library. It's just under where we've done the group guidelines, and you'll see that in the comments underneath we've got library, and then we've put all of our different sources, and one of the links there is to Manly P. Hall's student notes. Actually, I'll put it under this video as well if I remember. You'll also find it on the resources section of my website, which is also a link to my website, which is literally just me giving you access to all of these different links that we can find these different resources, and you know, basically just a few different quotes and some all my diagrams as well. I've put them on the website too. Right, so he goes on to say, this W.L. Wilmshurst, The tradition of Freemasonry is also universal of the collective soul of the human race having sustained a fall, a moral declination from its true path of life and evolution, which has severed it almost entirely from its creative source, and which, as the ages advanced, has involved it sinking more and more deeply into physical conditions. So sinking into matter. That's what we do, is we go from the golden age, where we've got the ether is abundant, the ethereal plane is more aligned to the physical plane, more connected, we're more infused, and as we go down the cycle, we sink more and more into matter, and so does the divine race. And so eventually, by the Iron Age, we don't even know who the gods are anymore, because we have just sunken into matter, so much that the light has been covered up within them. And so nobody knows who the divine are. And it's also a lesson for the divine, because it's God the Father chastising his children for digressing from the spiritual path, from the path of good and from the virtuous path. And so it's a lesson for them as well. And it even says in the Colburn Bible that, what kind of father would God the Father be if he wasn't chastising, his children. And that is why I really do suggest, guys, that you go out and get a copy of the Colburn Bible. The Colburn Bible and Hermetics, you don't really need much more than that, and probably a deck of Rider-Waite tarot cards and a Kabbalah tree of life diagram, and pretty much, that is a good chunk of knowledge right there that will help you definitely start you on your journey of seeking out knowledge. That's a good place to start. All right, so let's just get into Kalki, right? And then I'll go quickly into the couple of oh God, I've got so much more to read you. Guys, I'm tangenting again. I do this all the time. All right, okay, let's just go back to Kalki, because I want you guys to hear this. And you will just, your mind will be blown. Remember that meme of that guy where, mind blown? Well, just wait till you listen to this. Right. So Kalki is the last avatar of Vishnu. So the Hindu texts describe the reincarnations of the divine male, the firstborn divine male, as different avatars as he goes down the cycle of the great year, which the Hindu have actually kept hold of. They are very, very still connected to the great year cycle. Their texts, they made sure that they, literally implanted the great year in their text so it would not be lost, because all of the divine, when they relayed this knowledge, they fragmented it on purpose. And so different parts of the divine knowledge will feature more in different revelations, in the way different cultures relay this knowledge. And they made sure that they put the great year right in the center of their divine knowledge, so it couldn't be just destroyed, and the Catholic Church or the evil Antichrist couldn't just, demolish all of that, and we would not have any clue about that at all. There is a lot of disinformation being pushed about the great year, though, in regards to the Hindu text, and they show that that they break up the Bronze Age into two separate areas. They break, it's really weird how they've done it. And then they make out that we've got thousands and thousands of years before we head back to the Golden Age, and we slowly go back, and make our way. No, it's not how it happens. Happens immediately. We end the Iron Age, the apocalypse happens, and then we enter into the Golden Age, okay? It does not take a long time to go back into the Golden Age. And I can give you evidence of this with the mythology of Kalki, because Kalki literally appears at the separation of the two ages and brings us into the Golden Age. So let's go on. So the Hindu texts state that Kalki is the final avatar of Vishnu. Vishnu is the Hindu, or one of the Hindu names for God the Father, who arrives on a white horse with a blazing sword to rid the earth of degeneracy, wickedness, and filth. He will be accompanied by his 3 brothers and will be the last messenger of God. Once he has restored justice on earth, he will usher in the Satya Yuga, golden age. Right? So it just tells you there that once he has basically destroyed the filth and rid the earth of degeneracy, wickedness, and filth, he's going to usher in the golden age. And literally, he returns with his 3 brothers. And does anybody remember the story about the 4 riders of the apocalypse? You know, the 4 horsemen? It's a bit weird, isn't it? They're 2 different stories that basically say the same thing. Isn't that just interesting? Well, you know, this is why I don't understand how people cannot find knowledge and remain walking around blind to the truths that are literally everywhere around us if we just spend the time to put them all back together again. But see, the Christians would never do that, because the modern Christians would think that's evil to read the Hindu text, or to read the Quran, or to read the, you know, Book of the Dead, or to read the Nag Hammadi Gospels, which is another very important set of texts, or to read the Kolbrin. That's evil. You know, how dare you read anything out of what the Catholic Church has told us and instructed us we're allowed to read. That's literally what they're saying, by the way, because the Catholic Church have decided on what goes into that Bible. The Catholic Church have had possession of the scriptures and the interpretation of the scriptures for at least the last 800 years. And so anybody that thinks that the Catholic Church weren't tweaking and editing those scriptures when they saw fit, yeah, sure. As I've said before, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Right. Now, his swift white horse, Devadatta, and sword in hand, travels over the earth exhibiting his 8 mystic opulences and 8 special qualities of the Godhead. Well, guess what? There's 8 messiahs. Okay, 4 males, 4 females. Each of the messiahs represents a race. So you've got male and female messiah of each of the 4 races: the white, the yellow, the black, and the red. So, again, telling us that right there. He will make his appearance at the conjunction of the 2 yugas, the Kali Yuga, which we are in now, and the Satya Yuga, which we're going into, which is the golden age. So Iron Age, Golden Age. And at the conjunction of those 2 ages, that's when he is going to make his appearance, because the Christ light returns, the ether returns, the divine illuminates, the firstborn of the divine illuminates first, okay, and he is the most powerful of all the divine. They look to him, the divine race look to the firstborn divine male as their leader, because he is the most powerful. So this is why you will always see the mythology about the firstborn divine male in every single culture, because that is the human, the divine man who holds it at the highest degree. The Vishnu Purana, Book 4, Chapter 24, also explains that when the practice is taught... Oh, I love this part, guys. Just listen to this. When the practices taught in the Vedas and institutes of laws have nearly ceased, and the close of the Kali age shall be nigh, a portion of that divine being who exists in his own spiritual nature, and who is the beginning and end, and who comprehends all things, shall descend upon earth. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Actually, that's not the part that I thought it was going to be. There's another part, you're just going to laugh when you hear it. The Padma Purana prophesizes that Lord Kalki will end the age of Kali, and he will kill all the wicked barbarians and thus destroy the bad condition of the world. He will gather all the distinguished Brahmanas, the divine, and will propound the highest truth. He will know all the ways of life that have perished, and will remove the prolonged hunger of the genuine Brahmanas. the divine, and the pious. He will be the only ruler of the world that cannot be controlled and will be the banner of victory and adorable to the world. At this time of the Kali Yuga, Iron Age, the planet will be filled, this is the part I love, the planet will be filled with people who will be unable to understand logical conversations. Shall I read that again? The planet will be filled with people who will be unable to understand logical conversations. They will be too slow-minded and dull-witted, not capable of being taught much, especially in the way of high philosophy regarding the purpose of life. They will not know what they need to do or how to live, and they certainly will be unable to change their ways. Therefore, Lord Kalki does not come to teach them, but to simply chastise, punish, and cleanse the planet. So there won't be any Jesus coming back and being, like a lamb, and he's going to be talking nicely to all of the modern Christians who are, they're his besties. That's how they talk about him. He's not coming back to do that. Nope. He's coming back with a sword, and he's coming back to clean up the mess. And it's not going to be very pleasant. So, anybody who thinks that Jesus is just this little lamb who's, all love and light, yeah, in for a big, big shock. All right, so that's pretty much in relation to the great year. So this is now in relation to the cycle of the soul, and I'll just go through some of these verses from different texts and, different quotes from different philosophers. Now, Jesus actually believed in resurrection, believe it or not. He actually stated, not resurrection. Jesus actually believed in reincarnation and taught about reincarnation. And this is the part of the book of Matthew that the Catholic Church decided not to put into their Bible, because this is from the Gospel of Thomas. And as I've said to people before, if you read the Gospel of Thomas and then you go and read the book of Matthew, you can see what the Catholic Church has decided to leave out of the book of Matthew and how they've basically edited these scriptures so that they can brainwash their faithful congregation and brain-dead congregation. So Jesus says, tell us, the disciples said to Jesus, tell us how will our end come? And Jesus said, have you found the beginning then that you are looking for the end? You see, the end will be where the beginning is. Congratulations to the one who stands at the beginning. That one will know the end and will not taste death. The Gospel of Thomas. So I know it's basically talking about the cycle of the great year, but it's also talking about the cycle of the soul. Okay. No beginning, like the end and the beginning are the same, basically. If you look to where the end is, then you found the beginning. Pretty much that's what it's saying. All right. Let's go through the rest of these about the soul. Nothing in the entire universe ever perishes, believe me, but things vary and adopt a new form. The phrase being born is used for beginning to be something different from what one was before, while dying means ceasing to be the same. Though this thing may pass into that and that into this, yet some of things remains unchanged. The Ovid. How wilt thou then, knowing it so, grieve when thou shouldst not grieve? How if though thou hearest that the man new dead is, like the man new born, still living man, one same existent spirit, wilt thou weep? The end of birth is death. The end of death is birth. This is ordained. That's a Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita. I am confident that there truly is such a thing as living again, and that the living spring from the dead, and that the souls of the dead are in existence. Socrates. The soul comes from without into the human body as into a temporal abode, and it goes out of it anew. It passes into other habitations, for the soul is immortal. Ralph Waldo Emerson. the soul is not the body, and it may be in one body or in another and pass from one body to body. Giordano Bruno, by the way, he was a hermeticist who was burned at the stake by the Catholic Church. So let us all thank Giordano Bruno for his sacrifice to bring us this knowledge, because he literally died on the stake to bring us this knowledge. So we need to understand that people died, were tortured and burned to death because they wanted this knowledge to, continue on and to give others this knowledge. So we need to remember that, that we are very blessed because of these people who are true martyrs and died trying to keep the flame alive, because that's literally what we are doing right now. We are keeping the flame of knowledge alive. And no, it will not be a path where you will see thousands and thousands of people on this stream. And should you see thousands and thousands of people on this stream, that's a red flag. I would say stop watching this stream if you ever see thousands and thousands of people on this stream or any stream, because that means the truth is not with that person. Because this truth, this knowledge that we have here, that we have possession of, is not for the many. It's for the few. And so it's going to be the hermit's path for us, guys. It's going to be the lonely path. And we should just feel lucky that we've found each other and we do have this technology to connect each other, because it's not a path that you are going to share with lots of people, and you're not going to be able to take this knowledge and go and discuss it with all your friends, over a beer or over a glass of wine, and and get excited about it like we get excited about it. It's just not going to happen. And I suppose we all learn that the hard way, don't we? Because I have too. All right. So I just wanted to finish with a quote from the Colburn Bible, and then if you guys have got any questions, we'll go through questions. If not, I'm not seeing anything on the live chat, so I just don't know if you guys have been. Okay. I just needed to refresh. Okay. All right. So I'll just read this one from the Colburn Bible, and then I'll go through and we'll go through and address some of the questions in chat. So it's talking about the soul. It remains immortal and indestructible throughout the ages. Its splendor is displayed in noble deeds and its glory in works of art and craftsmanship. It will survive your bodily disintegration. It was not created by the quickening of flesh, nor conceived within the womb. Its seed existed before the body and preceded the thinking heart. The great God sows soul seeds into earthly flesh, as man sows barley seeds in the fields of black soil. The soul is yours to fashion. It can be made radiant by goodness, beautified by virtue, and glorified by love. It can be hideously deformed by vices and passion, and twisted into a form of distorted horror by meanness and hatred. There is no constant state of life. All is movement and change. Therefore, it is well to build the structure of your life on a foundation of things which are not easily removed. These are wisdom, skill, and knowledge, which once possessed cannot be taken away, and can hoarded gold and cherished chattels in the ebb and flow of life's fortunes. Gold and silver are uneatable stones, but wisdom is the food of the gods. Skill and knowledge define the difference between the ox with the yoke and the ploughman with the whip. That's from the Colburn Bible, the Egyptian texts of the Bronze Book, chapter 4, the nature of a man's soul. All right, now let's go through some of these comments. All right. Attacks mean I'm effective. Yes, well, that's true. And it's also attacks when people are attacking you because they don't like what you say. You are literally shining a light on parts of them that they don't want to see. You are literally dragging them into the light, and they are like, when you drag a vampire into the light, they're like reacting to it physically, and that's how we basically see that manifested in them, saying horrible things and acting out towards us in a horrible way. Yep, double shot from the sun, Monday night. Yep, 2 of those CMEs. Yeah, not surprised that YouTube won't alert you. Yeah, interesting. It's funny when you actually look up my name in YouTube search. I don't know if that's still the case, but it brings up all the bad videos about me that people have done. It doesn't bring up any of my good videos. I mean, it might have changed now, but there was a time where you would look up my name and it would bring up like this one woman's video when I was way back, before I even discovered all of the knowledge, and I was still kind of, in the dark, feeling around, trying to find my way. And I basically made mention of how we are so evil as a race, and how we destroy everything, that we just deserve to be wiped out, and the earth deserves to be cleansed of us. And then she actually translated that into, I wanted to kill everybody. Yeah, and just basically said that that's what I said in my video, that I just want to, kill everybody and kill mankind. So, yeah. Dutch sense, yeah. Dutch sense, yeah. One of those people, and I can see how you've spelt my name backwards. Dutch sense is one of those people who is a sensationalist, and it's not hard to predict seismic activity, okay? It's not hard. The pattern's there for everybody to see. Dutch sense and I are not exactly on friendly terms, okay? So I don't really put much attention onto Dutch sense. If I was going to actually listen to anybody about data, it would be Ben from Suspicious Observers. He's less of a sensationalist. I don't agree with everything that Ben says. I do think that Ben omits a lot of the spiritual nature of what is occurring now with the earth changes and space weather changes and changes we're seeing on the sun. Everything originates in the spirit, in the ethereal plane. So, and this is actually then transferred into the material plane. So yeah, I would not recommend Dutch sense to anybody. And yeah, I love the way how you spelt Elinad backwards, because Danielle is, or Daniela is actually what D is short for. I have a feeling that these people are praying for a nuclear bomb. It will make their plans much easier. I'm not sure what that is in relation to Aaron, but they will definitely have a thermonuclear war. They are literally going to try and nuke us out of existence, because they want to destroy everything that is divine. Okay, everything that is divine, they want to destroy that. And so, yeah, I would not even doubt that nuclear Armageddon is in our future, because they will not inherit anything. Okay, if you look at it as them not inheriting the kingdom, and they hate the divine race. They hate the fact, the antichrists hate the fact that the divine race go through into the new golden age, that they are immortal regardless of their transgressions. Okay, and so the antichrists hate them. They just hate that fact, that they feel that it is so unfair that there is a element within humanity that is not accountable to the divine laws like they are. And so they want to punish the Creator. They want to punish God. And so the way that they will do that, why they have control of the material plane, is try to destroy what they cannot inherit. So they will try and destroy as much of the physical plane as they can through the nuclear Armageddon, but also of humanity, because we are the material emanation of the Creator in the physical form, biological form. We are literally, mankind are literally okay, let me try and say this. Mankind are God the Father basically created in a material biological form. God the Father experiences creation through us mentally, through us emotionally, and through us physically. And you know, I was explaining in the last stream I did, and I said, imagine that the Vitruvian man was God, and God the Father, and that the leg is not the same as the arm, but the arm and the leg are still part of the same thing. And I should have actually used the statue from the book of Daniel. It was right there in front of me, showing you the different degrees of divinity within humanity. And I just completely did not even recognize what was right in front of my face, which is how symbolism works for the normies. And so, yeah, I just couldn't believe that last time. I'm like, oh my God, I actually had a perfect example to give you guys, and here I am using, you know, Vitruvian man and trying to come up with an analogy. But yes, so yeah, we will definitely experience nuclear Armageddon. That they are just timing it, and as I've said, they know that when they play out their final part of the script, that they will lose full control. Like at the moment, they have control of us, and so they don't want to give up that control, because they are gods on the material world, and money is their weapon. I mean, they can buy and make, their money and wealth can buy them whatever they want, can manifest whatever they want for them in the material plane. And so while the system is as it is, they have full control. They don't want to give that up, but they also want to play out their last part of the script and punish us, and also attack God the Father. So they have to time it right. So when you see that the earth changes continue to escalate to the point where there is no stability anymore, that's when they are going to start playing out their last script on mankind. And that is why I always watch the earth changes very closely, because when you see that the tectonic activity is really starting to escalate, and especially the volcanic activity, that's when you know we're getting close. But they will play out World War III before they actually go into nuclear Armageddon. Like World War III will bring us into nuclear Armageddon. And they will also play out the great financial collapse before World War III. So that's kind of how it'll go. It'll go great financial collapse, right? Food shortages, you know, all of the banks are going to go into liquidation and collapse. Everyone's going to be in a state of confusion, and there's going to be hunger in the Western world. America, food shortages and hunger are coming to you. Then they're going to present us with saviors, you know, a whole new batch of politicians who are going to claim that they're not evil. They're going to bring in communism, where we're all, you know, on central bank digital currency. They'll bring up the internet again, because that'll all be brought down with the global financial collapse. Everything will be brought down when it all comes back online, and they've already got this in the works anyway. When they bring on the new internet, we will all be attached to the internet with an internet ID. It'll be attached to a social credit score. It'll be attached to our device that we must have. It won't be a choice of, well, I don't want a phone. You'll have to have one, or you won't be able to exist at all, and they'll just put you in some camp. Okay? You'll be locked up in some camp, and they'll do this for the benefit of society. Okay? That's how it will be framed. So they'll play that out. So that'll be our reality for probably 6 months. You know, it'll be like a full oppression. We won't be able to share knowledge. We won't be able to communicate with each other. All of our communications will be completely watched. I mean, think 1984. You know how everything was known by Big Brother. Well, that's how we're going to live. It's going to be very depressing, and it's going to be very miserable. And these are the times where you're going to count on your understanding of your spiritual nature and your understanding of the times that we live in. That is when it's going to matter to you the most. And when these situations play out, if you haven't been paying attention, if you're one of these people that just, you know, goes from video to video and it's a novelty and that sounds good, and then you go and listen to something else, and then you go and listen to something else, you're going to be basically existing within these times, wishing that you had not treated this knowledge like a novelty, because you're literally going to be no better than the normies, the sheeps. The rest of us, we are going to have to go within. and fully understand that it's all part of the process, and the times will be very, very dark. So yeah, start basically getting real, guys. I can't say it any more than that. Just get real, you know, like go within, find your divine nature, remember who you are. Stop being confused by all the white noise because so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that and so-and-so said this, you know. What I'm bringing to you here is from the texts themselves. If I can put this knowledge back together, so can you. So can you. Go back and see what I found and go and investigate further. That's what you're here to do. Not listen to me, not believe what I've said. Okay, in fact, find flaws in what I've said so that you can go and investigate further. That's what critical thinking is. Engage in it. That's pretty much what it is, you know. That is what your duty as a soul is. That is what your mission as a soul is in these times. Go and discover who you are again. Go and find who you are again. That's pretty much it. And you will do that with the text. You have to go back to the most purest form of the text that haven't been bastardized by the Catholic Church, by the Jesuits. All right. Yeah, I know that you don't want to have a smartphone, mate, Neil, but as I said, when it all plays out and we are reset into a new system, you will either have the choice of having a smartphone or being locked up in one of their you know, detainment camps, re-education camps, whatever they're going to call them. You will not be allowed to be outside their system. And they, as I said, they will just say that you're a threat to the system. And at that time, everyone's mentality, everyone will be such in a state of lack and confusion, and then they will have these people that present themselves as their saviors that are going to help them as long as we do what they say, and then we'll get food and we'll get shelter and we'll get money and we'll get internet access, blah, blah, blah. That anyone who is going to object to the system is going to be seen as an enemy. They are going to frame you as an enemy and you will get locked up into some re-education camp. So it's all well and good to have this, I'll never get a smartphone and stand in your truth. But the fact of the matter is the collective have made that decision for you, mate, and you're only one person and I'm only one person, and we are just not in the majority to make the situation any, you know, different to what it is. We just don't have that power. So what you need to do is just go along with it while knowing the truth. You know, just understanding that it's just a part of the process, and to just be the chameleon. Okay, what you're doing now when you go into reality, you know, into the fake world out there, and you have to put on your mask and be the chameleon and blend in, that's what we all have to do. We have to blend in. Some of us may not be able to blend in. I'm pretty sure some of us are already on the radar and will probably, you know, end up, who knows, but look, in for a penny, in for a pound. Even if I was to go and delete every video I've put out, they still have a record of all of my videos back until 2011, when I was putting out this knowledge before I even knew what I was going to find and how important it was going to be. So there's no use, you know, me cowering and pretending, you know, and going back and trying to delete. It is what it is. So that's why I've decided actually that I'm just going to keep putting this information out until the very end, because well, I may as well. Yep, seniors are becoming homeless in Australia too, Neil. There are literally grandmothers living in their cars right now. I know of a situation in my town, and I'm just in a small kind of regional area, where a lady is sleeping, an older lady is sleeping in her car at the local school, because she's organised it. It's actually the local Catholic school, believe it or not. And she's organised it with the school if she can sleep in their car park. Because they have security that go and check, you know, a few times a night. So that is really sad when we are seeing older people becoming homeless just through situations in their life that are out of their control. And it's really sad when we've got this religious organisation who have got all of these huge churches and all of this financial, you know, material way of helping others, and they don't. Why can't every church, and I've said this before, why can't all the pews in churches be turned into bedding every night so that the homeless can come in? You know, I thought these people were followers of Christ. Isn't that what the Christ would want them to do? To help those people that are in a situation where they are suffering? Yeah. So it's sad. It's very sad. Yeah, Saturnian Sun. I liked Buddhism too. But the more I looked into Buddhism, modern Buddhism, okay, the way, like, so you see how Christianity doesn't actually resemble Christianity anymore. Like, if you actually look at the Nag Hammadi scriptures and you read the Colburn Bible, that's based on Christian scriptures and Christian teachings. You will see that modern Christianity doesn't resemble those ancient teachings at all. Okay, so what's happened is all of our different religious organizations have been infiltrated and co-opted and then corrupted, and Buddhism hasn't escaped. So if you look at the Dalai Lama, he is one of the most evil men on the planet. He literally is buddies with the Pope, and there is lots of photos of the Dalai Lama with the Pope. Okay, I think it was with Benedict. I don't know if there's, I think, yes, no, there are pictures of the Dalai Lama with Francis, with Pope Francis, Joe Bigoglio. So they've been corrupted too. And if you have a look at some of the practices within Buddhism now, it's very much teaches spiritual apathy. Okay, so literally all you have to do is meditate and believe you're your own God, and then that's all it takes to be enlightened. And I've said this before that, you know, people like to meditate on their chakras, and they think that if they meditate and align their chakras, they're going to illuminate and reach the crown chakra. Well, if you actually read the Buddhist texts, the actual texts, right, which most New Agers don't do, the only way you can reach the crown chakra is through death of your mortal coil. So you literally have to die before you reach the crown chakra. Nothing in any of the texts talks about meditating on chakras. Nothing. Okay, this is all New Age claptrap. And Buddhism is basically the religion of the New Age. So they've literally created a market for and a path for everybody that was interested in different you know, different spiritual aspects. So for those who weren't really New Agey, they created the false Christian path, and for those who didn't like religion, they created the New Age path, which they used Buddhism as a way to help them solidify this false teaching, because people actually don't go and read the Hindu texts or the Buddhist texts. They don't read them. They just listen to some guru tell them what these texts supposedly say. And most of the New Age beliefs cannot be found in the Hindu texts or the Buddhist texts. So anyway, yeah, I have studied Buddhism. I tried to be a Buddhist for a whole year in 2004, and I was never more miserable in my entire life than that year, because I literally suppressed all of my emotions. I never allowed myself to get angry at everything. I never allowed myself to express any negative reaction to everything, and I couldn't be more miserable and more inauthentic as a person. And that's when I knew that there was something not right about it. And I literally rang up a Buddhist temple that was in my area, in my main town area, and I asked them questions, you know, because things weren't making sense to me and they really couldn't answer my questions. And so again, be careful. I can't tell you what path to go down and whatnot. You have to discover that for yourself. I can just tell you from my own experience, and I just would say to you to go and look more deeply into the Dalai Lama, to go and look more deeply into how some of these Buddhists behave. Look at the Tiger Temple in Thailand and what they found that these Buddhists were doing to these tigers. Go and have a look at some of the temples where there is child sex abuse going on with young boys. Okay, a lot of these Buddhist priests and Buddhist monks are actually pedophiles, and look into it a lot deeper, because I think what you think about Buddhism is probably the New Age version of Buddhism and the corrupted version of Buddhism. It's not actually Buddhism. That's okay, Ellie Nad. I'm glad that those photos help explain a lot. That's why I put them there, so that you guys can start to learn the language of the symbolism, because it's very important. It's an important part of this knowledge, is understanding the symbolism. Yeah, that's a good way to be. I am my own religion, Neil. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel too. I can't really be pegged into any particular religious organisation. I align, I do kind of align with more teachings than others. I just kind of feel I understand them a little bit better, but I wouldn't go as far to call myself a particular name. If somebody wants to know what I am, I would probably call myself a theologian or a hermeticist, a symbolist, philosopher. We like to label things, and sometimes it's hard not to. There are situations in life where you do need to actually provide a description of, who you are. So look, religion is man-made. Okay, it's a man-made entity, and it used to all be the one religion, and I know everyone is horrified when I say one religion. That's what the New World Order want to bring in, one religion. Well, they do, and they will bring in one religion, but it's not the true one religion that it used to be, because remember, all knowledge comes from the same source. It's just that the different cultures have expressed that knowledge culturally and differently, and it's been fragmented in that way as well, as a way to occult the knowledge. But it all comes from the same source. So the true religion was one religion. Before the Tower of Babel, if you go and look at the story of the Tower of Babel, it says we all used to speak the one language. We all used to understand each other. And that was basically when we had the one true religion, which was just an understanding of our divine nature and God the Creator and the divine race, his children. So, yeah, just don't, you just have to identify that the religions as they are today have been corrupted. So it's not a reason to hate religion, because in its purest form it was intended to lift us out of our material understanding of ourselves and understand ourselves on a spiritual level, but it's just been corrupted. Okay. Good night, Anna. Manager and talents parable. Not sure what that parable is. Aaron, you'll have to actually post it. Yes, these people meet regular and always make counter moves to how society flows. Yeah, they meet all the time. They come together all the time and work out their script and how well it's all going along and have a big laugh and mock us. Half of the stuff they do to us is just them literally mocking us. And this whole balloon thing, that's them mocking us. That is a distraction just for the sake of distracting us and biding their time to put something in the media to have us all discussing. It was literally them mocking us and literally them putting American people, American civilians, into a false sense of security, because thinking that the only time that they're ever going to have to see the enemy come into their airspace is going to be with some balloon. That's pretty much the end of it, And don't worry, I saw so many Americans bragging about that and, a balloon, how terrifying, how scared am I? China sends a balloon over. Hubris is the worst trait to have. Pride and hubris is just so, going to be something that people learn about the hard way, and especially Americans. And I'm not saying all Americans, because I know that there are, of course, in every country, even America, a part of the society that's being dragged along by the idiots. So the idiots, that's who I'm targeting when I say, these Americans, the idiots, usually Trump supporters, conservatives, not really conservatives, because they're not, and they're not Christians either. They claim to be, but they don't exhibit Christian behavior. They're so full of arrogance and bragging and how they think they're so strong and strongest military in the world and nothing's going to defeat America and la 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 la. And yeah, they're going to be taught a big lesson. So I just cringe when I see that. Oh yeah, satanic groups. Yeah, Saturnian Sun. So Satan worshippers are really, it's quite humorous actually. So they love to present themselves as like, these scary, goth types, like watch out, they're evil. And seriously guys, like don't ever be scared of a Satanist. I mean, they're literal idiots. So Satan, as we know, the true definition of the symbol, literally symbolizes materialism. Okay, so when we see the pentagram upside down, if you imagine the man placed in the pentagram, and there is a actual, alchemical design, symbolism, that shows you the man that's been placed in the pentagram. And so when the pentagram is placed upwards, the man's head is towards the ethereal plane, is towards Christ consciousness, is towards, God-like understanding, blah, 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 up, heightened consciousness, heightened thinking, higher self. When the pentagram is upside down, the man's head is in matter towards the earth, lacks an understanding of himself, is ignorant to his true nature, is ignorant to the truth, is ignorant to knowledge, basically worships the material, worships the earth. Okay, so this is how you can see these idiotic, Satanists. They literally are rock worshippers. That's what I see them as. Imagine someone standing in front of a rock and bowing down and worshipping it. That's about as evil as they are, guys. So next time you see a Satanist and you think, oh, he looks a bit, scary, and just think of him standing in front of a rock and bowing down and worshipping the rock, because that's literally all they are. And yes, they are a big part of the New Age movement. The New Age movement is as antichrist as you can get. So I would definitely stay away from the New Age movement. They were corrupted. Literally, it was created to steer people that didn't like religion but were interested in spirituality down another false path. New Age mindset is controlled by dark forces. I don't know what you mean, dark forces. If you think that there's some kind of, demonic forces at work, then yeah, not really. I mean, people who do actually align themselves with negative behavior and very negative behavior do have the potential to attract to themselves nefarious entities from the ethereal plane, which could basically influence their thinking. It's a little bit deep, and I don't really want to go into it now. And it's just like those who engage in virtuous behavior are protected from negative entities because they attract the positive entities from the ethereal plane. Because as we know, everything happens in degrees with the chain of being from highest to lowest, and on the ethereal plane it's a reflection of the material plane. So there would be entities, ethereal entities that that exist within the ethereal plane. This is what the symbol of angels represents sometimes. The symbol of angels also can represent angels on earth in the material form, which is the divine race. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go around being worried about dark forces working from beyond. unless you are a dark person. You know, if you're aligning yourself to the dark nature, and you're engaging in negative behaviors, like very negative behaviors, as in cruelty, torturing animals, and just actually getting off on that darkness within you, then I wouldn't be surprised that you've got these, negative entities all around you, and that they could very much influence your thinking, because you're weak-minded. But anybody who's engaging in virtuous behavior, who is seeking to align themselves with divine law, who is seeking to expand on their knowledge of who they are as a divine being, who is giving gratitude to their creator for the abundance that we've been supplied, who honors their creator, I wouldn't worry about dark forces. There's just nothing that they can really do. I mean, you're protected. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about any of these types of things. It's just a lot of this speech, a lot of this talk is meant to scare you and worry you, and I'm telling you, the only thing you should ever be scared of is God the Father, who has control over whether God the Father, who has put the divine laws in place, and you have allowed yourself to transgress those laws. So I wouldn't worry about any of this other. There's a lot of talk out there on the internet that's meant to scare you. But if you're on the path to divinity and on the path to knowledge, none of that even matters. Okay, that is inconsequential to your experience here. Okay, that's good that you question everything starting in 1977. Yeah, mine was 1999, as I said, yeah. But I think a few of us have always probably sensed that there was something not quite right. I was a very difficult child and a very difficult teenager. A lot of my report cards used to say that I didn't respect authority. And I suppose that my inability to align with the system manifested way back before 1999, just in my behaviour towards authority, because I never liked authority and actively worked against authority. I just did not like being told by them what to do, and especially when I just didn't respect them. I think that's what it came down to. I'm not adverse to being instructed, but it has to come from a place of something authentic and genuine for my benefit, and I couldn't see that in the schooling system. Okay, Zulus talk of a time when the moon was not here. Okay, yep, gonna have to see the actual texts for that so I can look at that and see if it's some type of symbolic explanation of the apocalypse, when we can see at the end of the Great Year Cycle, we do actually see that there's mention that the moon cannot be seen, or that the moon breaks apart, or that the moon appears to look different. Yes, the weight of our souls at the end of the Great Year resets. It's like we're literally rebirthed, and we are like childlike again. We have a very childlike innocence. We're rediscovering ourselves again, and we're literally rebuilding society again. We're starting from the beginning, and we do have an access to knowledge though, so it's not like we're cavemen sitting in we're trying to light fire and work out how fire or any of that. We have access to knowledge because we are so close to Christ consciousness and the divine mind and the ethereal plane. Yes, thank you, Chris. And I would say the same to Saturnian Sun. Less chatter, more listening. If you want to ask direct questions about what we are discussing, that is welcome. But just throwing out, comments, it creates white noise. And look, we're welcoming to everybody in this live stream and this chat, but when you start creating white noise, you're kind of hindering the path for others, and I kind of find that is a little bit selfish. So maybe just save them all up until you've got questions rather than just kind of chattering, because we kind of, we don't want chatter. Chatter isn't conducive with knowledge. Karis, thank you. Yes, look, you know what? I love it when I can have a good swear and a rant. But it really is self-indulgent, and I don't want to risk my channel by doing that here. I am hearing that Rumble, you can actually swear and rant. So I'm like looking at maybe starting a Rumble channel. Leave it with me. I'll see what I can do. But yeah, over on the MeWe group, Shift of the Ages, yeah, hell yeah. We just let it fly over there. So anybody that wants to join in with us over at the MeWe group, come on in, because yeah, we just tell it like it is over there. Yeah, that's true, Yana. Yeah, that's a good way to spiritually arm yourself. People don't really want to mess with you when they know that you're willing to defend yourself, and yeah. So being born deformed or diseased is literally an expression of the soul from its previous incarnation. So perhaps you transgressed a few times in your previous incarnations. Living your next incarnation with a physical disability could be a way to allow you to rebalance those scales and work through your tests. Because really being physically disabled is a test. And so that is a way that your soul can be tested. And so can you see in these times how it's all about making life easier for the disabled and for the physically disabled? Well, we could actually be doing them a disservice, because part of our time spent in our incarnations are tests that work to that are there to work out our weight in our soul. And so we don't want to avoid our tests. We want to succeed in our tests so that we can basically work through the karma and the weight and the sin that we've gathered through previous lives. The other thing too is that I see a lot of people blame God, like, why would God ever do that to a baby and give the baby cancer and that? We are ingesting a teaspoon of plastics every week. Okay, they've literally worked out we're literally ingesting microplastics. Nearly all of the marine life in our ocean has been found to have microplastics in its organic matter. Okay, microplastics are in our soil, in where we're growing our food, in our water bottles, in our children's lunch boxes, in the plastic wrap that we put on our containers and that we stick in our microwave, and we warm our food. Literally, we're living in a toxic soup right now. So a lot of these cancers are brought about by our own behaviours. Okay, so we need to look in the mirror when we wonder why that child got cancer at 3 years old, or why those three little girls in one town all got a very rare form of brain cancer. What have we done to their environment to allow this? Yeah, the Antichrist in the Bible. There is a actual a verse in the Bible that says that when we're at that time in the cycle, the Antichrist will come. So be on the lookout. So yeah, the Antichrists are those against the Christ. Okay, those against the Christ. So that's why we have to understand it's not this devil with horns. Okay, it's just someone working to extinguish the light within you. That's what an Antichrist is. Every single politician, Antichrists. Every single clergy of a organized religion, Antichrist. Every single guru of a New Age movement, Antichrist. Every single author of a New Age book, Antichrist. So yeah, that you've got to understand it in how it really is. Yes, the Cathar Gnostics, they were just one group of Gnostics. Gnosticism goes right back to ancient Egypt, but the Cathar Gnostics were the group of Gnostics that the Antichrist's Catholic Church targeted back in the 1500s, because they refused to accept the Catholic doctrine. They knew that it was incorrect and what the Catholic Church were doing. They knew that the Catholic Church were the Antichrists, and so they punished them, and they literally slaughtered about 1 million Cathars. And to this day, nobody really understands or talks about the genocide of the Cathars. It's not spoken about. The Catholic Church has never stood up and basically said, we regret what we did to the Cathars, we repent, we apologise, we should be brought to justice for that. No. So yeah, every single Christian that follows that Antichrist in that Catholic religion is just complicit in the murders and the basically the genocide of the Cathars, who were literally hacked to death. I mean, I'm not even making it up, guys. They literally went into towns and hacked these people to death in front of their children, hacked their children to death in front of their parents, burned people at the stake in the middle of the town hall. Okay, and they could easily identify who the Gnostics were, or who those who wouldn't accept the Catholic doctrine were, by just building a church. This is why I have such an aversion to the Christian organisations' churches. And those who didn't go to the church every Sunday, they knew. They knew who these people were in the village. Oh, Martha and her sons didn't go to church on Sunday. And Joe over there didn't go to church on Sunday. Oh, well, Martha, well, she's the one that made our crops fail. I seen her talking to a cat. She's a witch. She's evil. You know, this is how it worked, guys. Okay? Very, very evil people that we have in control of our world. Yes, the divine will reincarnate regardless. The divine have a path, have a fated path and a divine path as well. All their paths, it's exactly the same for the divine. The only difference between the divine and mortal man is that at the end of the great year, the divine are the anchor of God the Creator, God the Father, so they automatically go through into the new age, the new year, sorry. And that they are basically the divine extension from God the Father that all of the other mortals will be created from in the new great year. Their incarnations may be a little different to mortal incarnations, because there will be different aspects to their experience, being that they are divine. But pretty much they go through the same cycle of reincarnation as every other mortal soul. Nobody gets a choice whether they want to reincarnate or not. It's already written. It's already predestined. So your life that you live in your previous incarnation will determine your next incarnation and when you are incarnated. You may spend more time over in the ethereal plane. You may spend less time over the ethereal plane. The divine, however, do not actually experience the lower levels of hell, of Tartarus. They literally will go to the Elysium Fields or heaven, many other names that each culture have for it. There are some differences. But for the most part, and especially in the Iron Age, in relation to their journey through their incarnations, they reincarnate exactly the same as mortals. Those people that are involved in the LGBT are in fact engaging in the destruction of our society, which is definitely a part of the Antichrist's script to destroy us as a people. And so they are destroying our virtue, they are destroying our children, they're also destroying the genders, and they just want to make us just this neutral nothingness that doesn't have any identity. That's definitely what they have planned. Yeah, I saw that video that SO did yesterday about the galactic light 26,000 years ago. I found that very, very interesting. That timing is exactly the timing of the great year. So I think that that is something that they have identified. And if SO, this is Ben from Suspicious Observers, is repeating this knowledge, this information that came from scientists, researchers whose grants all come from the government agencies who all answer to the Jesuits, then I'm pretty sure they definitely are measuring the light and they understand where we are in the cycle. They probably don't know exactly where we are in the cycle, and it no doubt may surge from time to time as well, but they definitely do have an idea of the timing of everything, and that's why they can play their cards out very slowly. And at the moment, we've hit a pause. They've played out the COVID card. They've beta tested us on how easy we're all going to conform to being, put on surveillance with our phones, with our devices, being shut down. Our freedom of speech was shut down on social media platforms. We weren't allowed to speak out against any of the injections. We weren't allowed to speak out against any of the behaviours. I limit myself to talking about that because I don't want my channel taken down. But I have started noticing that the articles are coming out more and more now, and there are different counties or different states that are bringing in laws that actually make it a misdemeanor and an offence to give someone one of those injections. So they're letting the masses know what's been done to them. They're literally mocking the masses. They're very cruel in how they do that. And this is what they're going to start, doing to the masses, to let them know that they've literally been an experiment, a guinea pig for Big Pharma. And watch that, because that's a card that they will definitely play. But yeah, we've just hit pause at the moment, guys. They're just biding their time, and it is definitely going to ramp up again. So again, these are the times when we have our opportunity to go and research into the knowledge so we can discover who we are, so we can make that knowing. We know that beyond a doubt. That's what it's got to be. It's got to be that you know it beyond a doubt. You know it as much as you know that the sun is going to rise, and you know that you are a divine being. You know that you are I'm not saying a divine being as in a God, but you are a divine being as in you carry a portion of the Christ within you. You are significant in this experience, and that you need to honor that place that you have. And if you are seeing this knowledge, fate has brought you here. Your destiny has brought you here for a reason. You can either scoff at what I'm saying. You can either hate on me for what I'm saying. You can either put your nose up at what I'm saying. Or you can either embrace what is being relayed here and go look further. But either way, it doesn't change anything. And really, if you are lucky enough to find this knowledge in all of the white noise, if you're a late awakener and you're only just finding this knowledge now, and you turn away from it, you've literally spat in the face of, the creator and your divinity, because you just turned your back on it because someone over there said something just as interesting, and they've got like 50,000 subscribers, so they must have the truth. Or and that one over there's got 90,000 subscribers, well, they must have the truth. So if that's your mentality, then yeah, I kind of really feel sorry for the people that happened upon this knowledge and then turn their back on it, because when it all plays out, you're going to know what you did, and it's not going to be a good feeling at all. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. I decided I was as enlightened as I could get and decided to concentrate on furthering my physical experience for a change. Didn't think I would forget or fall as much as I did and as quick as I did. Yeah, I kind of am hearing you there, Roger, because I literally, for like 6 months, went and followed my hobbies, and went and just kind of engaged in, I was still, doing updates in the groups and doing all that. But yeah, I literally felt this, I was so unanchored. And by just before Christmas, and I realized what it was now, because now that I'm engaging once again in this knowledge and relaying this knowledge, I can look back and go, what was I thinking? But I kind of thought, well, the Antichrists are biding their time, and, they're playing out everything so slow. Well, I may as well go and, you know, experience the material plane in the way that everybody else is, you know, and then I couldn't be actually more unfulfilled, because what I thought was going to happen in my mind to how it literally played out was just two completely different things. And then I realized again, I'm engaging with people who are literally unconscious. And you have to just fake it so much to meet them at that level of mentality that you're so not authentic. And then when you come back and you start, you know, looking at this knowledge again, you get rusty. You know, like you still always remember how to ride a bike, but it just takes you a little bit to really hone your skills again. So I feel that I'm getting right back into that again. So yeah, that's totally understandable what's happened, Roger, but the important thing is that we get back on the path. It doesn't matter that you've gone and found, you know, you went down that way for a little bit and you went down that way for a little bit, and it doesn't matter, guys, okay? We all do it. It's part of our experience of learning who we are, you know, and sometimes it's the mistakes that we make that show us where we have to correct. So don't be hard on yourself. Don't worry about it. Just get back on the right path. That's all you have to do. You know, we're all human here. We all make mistakes, you know. None of us is perfect. I'm not perfect. I've made heaps of mistakes. I've done heaps of things I regret. But the point of the fact is you just have to keep continuing on. You can't just allow that to, you know, encompass everything that you are, that mistake. It's just, yep, okay, I made a mistake. The bigger person just, you know, gets back on the path and just starts, you know, correcting themselves again. I mean, that's all we can do. Oh, Judith, I'm so sorry to hear about that. I really am. And I'm so glad that you have found this knowledge and that you know that you are much more than your physical self, and that your husband is still very much present in your experience. Whether that be that he is in the ethereal plane or whether he has reincarnated. And because he has been a part of your experience and such a significant part of your experience, and you bonded at that level, he would definitely, if he is reincarnated, be still within your inner group of family and friends. No doubt family, but yeah, definitely, guys, all of the people that we interact with on a very close level, we have had previous incarnations with these people and will have subsequent incarnations as well. So, you know, we are all connected, and we do have tribes in that way. And there are a couple of mythologies that involve the red string. So if you want to look up the myth of the red string, it kind of gives you a few different mythologies in where they discuss how there is this string that attaches, you know, this attachment that we have to certain people in our lives that never ever, you know, we cannot break that attachment and that bond, no matter what we do, you know. And we may only meet with them for a few years in each incarnation, but we will in subsequent incarnations continue to have these experiences that involve these people too. Okay. All right, guys. Well, look, I've gone over 2.5 hours, but I did want to just do that last half hour of answering your questions. So I suppose anyone that doesn't want to stay for that long, you know, you guys can just always come back later and listen to that last half hour. But anyway, really, really glad that you guys joined me today. Hope I kind of, you know, explained the symbol of the Ouroboros a little bit more. It's really not a difficult symbol to understand. It's pretty simplistic when you understand it just relates to the cycles of the great year and the cycles of our souls, and that the cycle of our souls is connected to the cycle of the great year. They're all fused together, and this is what symbolism usually does. It relates multiple different messages to us and information to us. It's very, very layered. So I will post everything that I was reading out, all of those different verses and quotes. I will post them underneath the video so you guys can check them out in more detail if you want. But other than that, guys, Have a great week. I may do another impromptu live stream tomorrow night because sometimes I've got time on a Tuesday night, my time, and if I've seen something that, you know, kind of triggers me, I suppose you can say, when I see the Christians, the modern Christian clergy filling their congregation's head with such disinformation, I sometimes feel the urge that I need to address that. So yeah, you might catch me on one of those impromptu live streams. But other than that, guys, I will be back next Sunday evening for you guys over in the States and Monday morning for you Aussies. And until then, take care. And as always,